please. Okay, we are on page 36 in the Maamar Haras. I hope to finish it today with Hashem's help. The Maamar, a long journey into understanding the words that we're going to read in Yiritz Hashem on Rosh Hashanah. Hayom Haras. What is the word? What does Hayom refer to? What does Olam mean? When you learn Chassidus, you don't just read the words, but you stop and you reflect. Hayom. Today. What's today? Rosh Hashanah. Haras either means birth. It's the birthday of the world. Well, I got a problem with that. Today is not the birthday of the world. The birthday of the world was 2 days ago, the 25th of Elul. So how do we say Hayom Haras Olam? Today is the birthday of the world. Okay, this is what you're supposed to be doing when you do meditation, when you reflect, when you daven b'kavana, when you don't rush to keep up to the Baal Tefillah, but you daven at your own pace. If you're able to get earlier to shul so that you can begin earlier, and then eventually you'll be up to where the Chazan is when the Chazan gets to Baruch Yishtabach, etc., Shmoneh Esrei, that's great. And then it says, another meaning of the word Haras is fear. Today the world fears you. Why does the world fear you? Because it's the Yom Kippur. Really? I thought Yom Kippur is really the day of fear because that's when the deal is closed, signed and closed and finished. And these are all issues that Chazal, not Chassidus, Chazal and the commentaries, the Abu Dram and early commentators on the Siddur discuss, and I encourage you to, go over the Rosh Hashanah davening has a lot of unfamiliar words. I'm not talking about Psuki de Zimra, Shachris, but from Chazoras Hashatz and on, Chabad has probably the shortest version of tefillos to say during Shmoneh Esrei. Other kehilas have longer versions, but regardless, there are new words for everyone. And it's very important to know what the words mean. So if you don't, you have an English translation, use it. And especially if you're a Baal Tefillah, if they send you over to the Yomid, it's very important to know the meaning of the words because you are representing the congregation and you want to, represent them the proper way. So the Maamar deals with this issue of Haras Olam, and then Hayom Yamad B'Mishpat Kol Yitzurei Elamim. Today stand in judgment all creatures, all creation, all of creation. So the Rebbe here, the previous Rebbe, gave us a new insight into Rosh Hashanah, because in order to answer a question, you have to have a background, and that's the style of Chassidus. It's not a kasha and a terah, it's a kasha and a terah, it's a question and answer, which you find, by the way, in many other Sifrei Chassidus, where there's more direct questions and answers. In Chabad, in Tanya, and in the Maimorim, basically in Chabad Chassidus, it's a long-winded answer. And we could reflect back on what the Baal Tanya says on the Sharblat, on the title page of Tanya, that the mission statement of Kikori Velecha Adavar Mioid, the mission statement of Tanya, that being that it is close to you, in your mouth and your heart, and to act upon. I will teach you this. B'derech Arucha Ktsara. Arucha Ktsara is a Gemara in Eruvin. The Gemara says there was two paths to get to the city. One is a shortcut, but it ends up being longer, and one is a long way, but it ends up being shorter. And the Alter Rebbe says that the style that he chooses for his Tanya, the philosophy and ideology, so already 200 years ago, Chavre, the Alter Rebbe already said, you guys better have patience. If you want to be a Chabad Chassid, you better be patient, because if you want a quick fix, this ain't the derech for you. True. Because the Alter Rebbe and Tanya spends 17 chapters from one on the long way to come to Avas Hashem. Because at the end of the day, as it says in the Zohar HaKodesh, if you daven and you learn and you don't have Ava and Yira, that's a quote from Zohar HaKodesh. It doesn't soar on high. Your tefillahs remain below. We have to create an Avas Hashem and a Yiras Hashem of some level and somewhat every time we learn and daven. That's a very difficult task. And the Alter Rebbe chapters analyzing who we are and who we are not, and why we are and why we are not, and when we are and when we're not, vis-a-vis the 5 categories, 2 tzaddikim, 2 rishoyim, and a beinani, and then talks about the garments, the levushia nefesh, then speaks about the koichas nefesh, the soul powers, and then speaks about the struggle between the nefesh abamis and nefesh elikis, which he already introduced us in chapter 1 and chapter 2 of Tanya. And then he goes into details from chapter 12 through 17 of this Beinani, the paradigm, the prototype individual who the Tanya is geared for. And guess who that is? We, us. We are potential Beinanim, every single one of us. Because the Alter Rebbe once wrote a Sefer Shel Tzadikim, and the tradition is that it went up in fire the same day Zayda, the holy tzaddik, passed away. He took the Sefer with him to heaven, because it was a sefer for tzaddikim, and we're average people. So the Tanya remains, and the sefer shel tzaddikim is gone. So we have this Tanya, and in the Tanya, the Alter Rebbe lays out a course of developing ourselves and refining ourselves. 17 chapters, it's a very long way. But at the end, if you take the time, like we've been learning for 3 weeks, this Maamar, we've been dissecting it, we've been going slow over it, we've been dialoguing, it becomes more meaningful. And the same was with Chassidus, Chabad. And that's why it's the first way that the Alter Rebbe suggests finding love and awe for Hashem. Then in chapters 18 and 19, the Alter Rebbe says, I got a short way for you. It's called to reveal the Ava Tivis, to reveal your inherent love that every Jew has, even a Jew who's a Kal Shebekalim, who's so lenient, doesn't care about anything. Even that Jew loves Hashem, and he loves him very much so. But it's so latent and so hidden and so covered up and so messy, you have to take all that dirt off. And once you take off the dirt, you see the most beautiful, beautiful neshama, the most beautiful Jew. So, why does he call that a short way? Because that doesn't take reflection and meditation. That takes awareness and memory. Remember who you are. Wake up. You know, when you're asleep and someone shakes you, get up, get up. As soon as you shook enough, you get up, you're up. You're up. What's the first thing that comes out of? I thank you, Hashem, for I'm here. A Yid, a Jew. I told you yesterday the story, right? That he goes all the way a few days ago to Bombay, to India, because he wants to get away from this traditional Jewish stuff, even though he wasn't, frum, but it's too much for him. Organized religion is the worst thing on earth. Especially those from the 60s and 70s. Remember that organized religion is the reason why this world is so messed up. I don't want to have any part of it, so I'm running away to another part of the world in another culture. And there he's sitting at the beach and looking at the sun as the sun sets, and the water and the waves are so therapeutic. And he looks down and he sees a piece of paper, and he picks the paper up and he sees English writing in what's going on here. And then he looks a little further and he sees it's talking about Jews and souls. And he says, I thought I came here to get away from this. And this is chasing me. And he says, I can't get away from it. I can't get away from it. I want to get away from it. I've paid money for a ticket to go to the other world, to the other side of the world, and I can't get away from it. And he says to himself, you know why I can't get away from it? Because this is who I am. Either I'm alive or I'm dead. And I'm alive. If I'm alive, obviously, the message is, this is who you are. And he goes back to America, and he discovers his roots, and he becomes a Yid, and he starts learning, and the rest is history. All this is a result of what the Alter Rebbe calls in chapters 18 and 19 of Tanya, the Ava Mesuteres, the latent, hidden, natural love, or Ava Tivis, Yaakov, Ava Tivis. It's natural for you. You don't have to create the love. You see, the love of the first 17 chapters of Tanya, Hillel, you have to create. You have to work on and develop. It's a lot of work. It doesn't come easy. But the Ava Tivis is much more, it's easier once you're awake and alert. If you're not awake and alert, then nothing is easy. So going back to the Maamar here, the Frierdiker Rebbe, the author, taught us in this Maamar that the way to have Haras Olam, Hayom Haras Olam, Hayom Yamid B'Mishpat Kol Yitzurei Lomim, if you want to sense the awesomeness of this day, you need to spend time thinking about the day, not thinking about yourself. It's a mistake. Don't think about yourself. Because if you think about yourself, you'll be sad. Why? Because we're not perfect and there's issues, communal and family and self. Think about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Allow yourself to go into the domain of Hashem and get to know this Hashem who's your Hashem. And the more you think, the more he takes you into his apple of the eye. And when you're in the Eibishter's and HaKadosh Baruch Hu's apple of the eye, we see it's the world of holiness, the world of Kedusha, the world of Tahara, and the world of purity. And that's why, like I told you the story a few days ago, that the Rebbe said, the Chassid who was dancing, singing, Anim's Miros, Motzoi Yom Kippur, while everyone ran home to eat because they're hungry. And he doesn't feel the hunger pains because he's Anim's Miros, Vishirim Eroig. He's singing the song of Hashem. He's with Hashem. So he gets his sustenance and nourishment from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So he's not hungry. We're hungry because we get the sustenance and nourishment from food. But when you could get to a place where the nourishment is HaKadosh Baruch Hu and you're in that realm, you just continue singing for hours on end till the morning, where everybody comes back for Shachris and they see a Yid singing all night. Right? This is all Hayom Haras Olam. If you want to feel the Haras Olam, the awesomeness of the day, Hayom Yamid B'Mishpat Kol Yitzurei Lomim, which we learned in the Maamar, not only are we judged on this day, but Kol Yitzurei Lomim, all the angels and all the souls and all the celestial beings judged today. Well, 1 minute, aren't they? They're in good shape. In good shape. And if we're not in good shape, they have a problem because they belong to us. They're not just floating because they have nothing to do. They're our angels. They're our celestial beings. Kol Yitzurei Lomim. And this was a theme that the Rebbe developed throughout the Maamar. And in the last chapter in particular, he taught us the importance of Moshe Rabbeinu, who was from those souls that are called souls of the leaders of the nation, Roshei Alpha Yisrael, who on one hand, Moshe looks into the Sefer of Adam Arishan, the Medrash says in Shmos Rabbah, a book written by Adam. In this Sefer, he tells us what was, what is, and what will be. And he sees known as Ikvis de Mashiach, the hills of Mashiach, and it becomes dark to his eyes. What's going on? How can we go so far? How can we not be interested in Havana v'Hasaga Elokus, which means an understanding and comprehending godliness? I want to know more about Hashem and deeper about Hashem. And he sees that it's a lost art. It's a lost art. So on one hand, Moshe Rabbeinu is devastated. But then he reads further and he says, wait a minute. I see that souls during Ikvis of the Mashiach have more Mesiras Nefesh than we do, Moshe Rabbeinu and company. It's easier for them to jump into the fire, to give their life for Hashem. They don't question as much. They don't say the following. Hashem says to Avram, I'll make you a great nation. Hashem says, I have 2 kids, and Hashem says, I'll do it through Yitzchak. And then this very same Hashem, God, says, bring him, Yitzchak, for a sacrifice on the altar, the Akedah. And we're going to read this on Reish Hashanah, Miras Hashem. Isn't that an oxymoron? Isn't that a contradiction? You're God. On one hand, you tell me you want to make me into a great nation and through my seed. And on the other hand, you tell me to bring my only son as Binchas Yechidcha as a sacrifice. It doesn't make sense. Did Avram ask this of Hashem? Absolutely not. He knows Hashem knows best, and he does it. Mesiras Nefesh transcends logic. Okay? That's it. You know, I don't know if this is a good example, Avi, but Avi and I were talking before we started this year about, attendance at shul, Rosh Hashanah, people wearing masks, not wearing masks. So he said, because some people are being defiant, and so he said, maybe they're right, maybe all of these restrictions are hogwash and nonsense, it can't be proven. But he says, I'm a soldier, and a soldier listens to rules. He happens to be also, over 60, so he's more careful about that. But the Nakuda, what I liked about what you said, Avi, is I'm a soldier. That
Hey, Rabbi.
Yeah, I'm okay. That Nakuta, that point that I am a soldier, that's Yiddishkeit. That's Torah. And that's the hardest thing. The most difficult thing is to be subservient, to be totally bottled to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to the point where you give up everything you have, everything you know, everything you feel for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I am a soldier. And that's the avodah of Reish Hashanah. To rethink and to reaffirm and to re-experience, I am a soldier. And that doesn't come, as we learned in the Maamar, from the outside behavior. Go to shul, blow the shofar, give tzedakah, put on tefillin, visit people, be nice to your family. Those are all important, no question about it. But if you're talking about being a soldier, it comes And that's a real avodah. It's a real therapy. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of and willingness, and that's why Hillel pointed out once during the shir that the Rebbe is speaking here about in the Maamar. We have to create a will by Hashem to want to be our king. Hashem also has to become a soldier. What kind of soldier does Hashem have to be? To be willing to be Melech HaOlam, the king of the world. Because each year he sees what goes on here, and it comes Rosh Hashanah night, and he says, I've had enough with you. I'm sick and tired. Genug, enough. 1 year, another year, enough. And we say, no, Hashem, we're blowing shofar from the depth of our heart. We love you, we need you, we want you. Please be our king for another year. And that is what we're supposed to be thinking about. And then you come to be a soldier. Yes, Yoni.
I tell you, this is a very, this point, this Nikuda that I was talking about, has been in my mind a long time. I don't understand if Rosh Hashanah is Yom Adin, and in essence, it's a very serious 2 days, very serious Shabbos this year and Yom Tov the next day, but Shabbos and Yom Tov. Very, very serious time. And we're in shul till 12, 12:30. I'm not talking about Uman, because this is what I have to get used to. In Uman, we're in shul till 5 o'clock. You feel it. It's a real, you feel like it's a real intense. The last time I was anywhere in America or in Eretz Yisrael it's a long time. We're talking like at least 10 years ago. So and the reason why, to me, Rosh Hashanah is like, okay, they finished davening, I already got the schedule. They're starting at 7:30, they're finishing at 12:15. That's the thing, and shofar's at 9:45. I don't understand this. I don't understand if it's the most, important day of the year, that and Yom Kippur, the most important days of the year. How is it possible that we spend a third of the time, or half the time in shul, and the rest of the time it's Yom Tov, it's like Sukkot, Shavuos, we eat and this and that, but the serious of the day is the tefillah. Okay, it's the shofar also, but it's the tefillah, and I don't know, to me it's kind of weird, like I'm a fish out of water, like I'm used to being now in shul, till 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock on Rosh Hashanah, but the rest of the world doesn't do that.
Well, I have to stop you there. I think next year, maybe, if you can't get to Uman, you come to Borough Park, and I'll show you about 10 shuls that spend all day in shul from 8 in the morning to 5, okay? Baviv, Emunas Yisrael, and the list goes on. And even Chabad, we start at 9, we finish at 2:33. But let's get to the Nakuda. The Nakuda is a little, I don't know if you're saying this, and if you are, great. If not, think about it. The Nakuda is that Rosh Hashanah has to be individualized. We make too much of, like you said, here's the schedule, in, out. No. If you go with that attitude, then you're going to have your issue, whether you're in Uman, in Borough Park, or in Bet Shemesh. I'm sorry. And that's by the way true for every Shabbos, but you're talking about Yom Adin and Yom Kippur. So I have a different attitude, and I'm just telling you the way I do. I go to shul and I daven at my own pace, but I sit there and I hear all the chiyuvim and I daven my own pace. And whenever I finish, I finish. Whenever I start, and it's fine. And so I'm trying to experience the Kedushas Hayom the way we're discussing here and the way you're talking about it in the environment of the shul, because in the environment of the shul you get to say Amen and Baruch Hu, and they sell aliyahs. What do I do during they sell aliyahs? I'm learning, I'm thinking, I'm davening, it has nothing to do. And if I'm able and wanting to buy an aliyah or to whatever, I do that too, but I'm just saying. So unless you adapt this attitude and you have 2 days, 3 days still to do it, you will feel empty. especially, for 10 years you've been Numan, 1 second, Yaakov, and now, you're dry and high on top of COVID and all of this. So I understand the way you're feeling, but there is a remedy. You only just put your talus over your head. That's why you have a talus. And just focus, and don't be distracted, and daven at your pace, and if tell your wife ahead of time, I might be an hour late, so shouldn't, if that, I want to daven a little longer, whatever it is. Again, I'm not saying it, and just work that out. Yes, Yaakov.
His question made me think that none of us got to the point that we are at with the hasagas we do have by just following, quote unquote, the organized religion of the schedule.
Yeah.
All of us got to where we are now by knowing there's a Tehillim, by knowing there's Sfar and Sifrei Yiddish to learn. Brisker Road would say Tehillim all day because he was margish the Yeris Hayom. So he didn't want to waste any time. He didn't wait. We know what he was in the Iyun and learning the Iyun, but he only said Tehillim all day on Rosh Hashanah because he was margish the Yeris Hayom.
Yeah.
The Yeris Hayom. So that's a mahalach to follow.
Yeah.
But certainly to be careful in Dvarim B'Teilim the whole day. That's what makes us who we are, at least who are magish to come to a shir like yours.
Yes, Yasher Koyach. And by the way, the Frierdiker Rebbe, the Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, he pushed, and he says it even here somewhere in the Maamar, to say Oisius HaTorah and Tehillim. Baruch Hashem, the last few years, I've been able to finish the Tehillim 3 times in the 2 days. Maybe I'm going to try this year to finish it 5 times. Keneged Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chai, Yechida. 1 for each level of the Neshama, if Hashem helps me. But how does that come? I just keep on saying Tehillim at any free time, and yesterday we were talking, about having guests, and I say you can have guests, but it's not a time for chit chat. You have your meal, you sing a nigging, you say a Dvar Torah, and you go. It's Kedushas Hayom. There are other days to socialize. Rosh Hashanah and Kippur are not days to socialize. I want to learn a little bit inside if we have a few minutes, and then okay. Page 36. We're at the last paragraph. And now he goes back to what he began the Maamar with the saying from the Machzer. Today is Haras Hayom, the Hayom who later Hayom. Today on Rosh Hashanah, the world is born. V'Hayom hu resas Hayom. Simultaneously, today is the day in which the world fears. Bepachat u'meira godil, with great and tremendous tremble and fear. Why? Mipnei shehayom asher hayom, because today yamud b'mishpat kol yitzurei lamim. Today all creatures stand before Hashem in judgment. Avol b'nei Yisrael, but us b'nei Yisrael oimdim v'nitzavim b'mishpat, we stand b'mishpat v'zoichim b'din, and we merit in judgment. I spoke to someone last week who knows Chassidus, and it seems to me that by the Rebbe phrasing it this way, he's making a comparison. And it's, again, I don't know if I'm right, but it seems like he's saying like this. The entire world on Rosh Hashanah is standing in judgment, and we don't know if they're going to be meritorious or otherwise. But we Yidden, we stand in judgment, and we merit in din. In other words, my question is, why can't they be merit? Why can't Kol Yitzurei Lamim be Zoiche B'din? You see, in other words, the way the Rebbe is writing it, again, if I am understanding correct, he's making a comparison between Kol Yitzurei Lamim and B'nai Yisrael. Avi, do you mind? Avi, can you mute yourself, please? And what he's saying is that they stand in judgment, and it's a question whether it'll be Zoiche B'din. But we stand in judgment, and we're going to be Zoiche B'din. And I believe the answer was given earlier in the Maamar. Because, and this answers also why he says Hayom, why it says Hayom Haras, the birthday of, and the answer we learned is because today was other Marishan, who is the Tachlis, the Kavan of the world. By default, that Haras is today, is Rosh Hashanah. And what's the idea? The idea is that Hashem says, if there's an Adam, there's man, and befrat that the man is the Yidden, and they're standing. I'm giving a Zeicha Bedin, and that makes also Yitzurei Lamim also have Schiyah. V'zeo im kivonim. He continues the im kivonim, if we're like children, and he mitzad ha'mayledim sh'bus Yisrael, if it's because of the virtue of Jewish souls, sheinachshavim kivonim, who are considered like children, k'mesha kosov, as it says, bonim, next page, top of the page 37, bonim atem l'Hashem Elokeichem, you are children to God, your God. So whether we are considered children of Hashem, or im ke'avodim, or whether we're considered like slaves, like servants, mitzad ha'mayla d'nishmas Yisrael, whether we are the children or whether we are servants, regardless, both from the perspective of the soul of the neshama, shehem avdei Hashem, who are servants to Hashem, k'moshe kosov, kili b'nei Yisrael, for you, kili, to me are the children of Israel, avodim, servants, avodayhem, they are my servants, v'hainu. The bein kach, whether we are bonim, whether we are avodim, year, regardless, halay b'nei Yisrael, hem bonim v'avodim v'zeichem bedin. We are children and servants, we're both, and we're zeichem bedin. Hashem says, I want this, and I'm giving you another good year. V'zeu hayom haras olam. This is the meaning today is haras olam. V'im heyosei haras olam. Even though it's the birthday and the fear, it's like awesome, like Yoim said before. In the Reish Hashana Nikra Yoim, we call the 48 hours day. Shehu Or, which is light. Ve'ein boy inyan halayla klal. Such a powerful language, Yoni. There is no night at all during the 48 hours. You hear that, Yaakov? But what do you mean there's no night? There is night. Physically, naturally, it's dark outside, but if you're in tune with the message of Rosh Hashanah, it's all Or. It's all Yoim. Because remember, the Gemara says, it's Kiyoim Arichte Damya, like one long day, and the Rebbe said, I don't mean one long day of 48 hours considered of night and day, but one long day of 48 hours, which are all Yom, Hayoim, Harasoilom. It's all light. Look at this. Ve'ein boy inyan klal, halayla klal. Who else would write such a thing? Ve'ein boy inyan halayla klal. The Rebbe is saying that the Zeiche Bedin is so powerful that the feeling is ein boy layla klal. K'meshe kosov keil Hashem yoir lanu. Hashem illuminates us. Begilu yoir pnimi v'yatzmi, with an inner revelation of godliness, be ava atzmis, with an essential love that Hashem says, I love you. By having true Kabbalah soil, as we discussed at length throughout the Maamar, nasim kelim tehorim, we become pure vessels, l'shefa brocha elyoina, for the abundance of blessing that Hashem has and gives. Look how the Rebbe concludes the Maamar, with an abundance of good of Gashmis and Ruchnius. You see, when you have the Kabbalah soil and you make yourself a Keli Tahira, Hashem says, I'm opening my treasures of Gashmius, and you're going to have so much Parnosa and so much Simchas and so much good health. The Gashmius of Baruchnius. So this is the Maamar. Tomorrow I'll just give a general shir on the Rosh Hashanah. Maybe it's Hashem. And we have what to work with. We have what to work with. So Yoni, I don't want you to be despair. I want you to go with a l'chatchila ribbon Chabad. We say above and beyond, or as we say in English, over the top. Go with an over the top attitude. Make believe. You were there 10 years and you were inspired in Uman. You have to now bring it back to Bet Shemesh. Otherwise, what happened to your inspiration? So you're there now this year, and you can't cry over spilled milk. And now think about the elation you had. I'm serious. Throughout those 10 years in Uman, and now bring it into Bet Shemesh. And if you will do that, and it'll be real, people will see it and say, this is an Uman. I'm serious. This is someone who was an Uman. This isn't someone, he is an Uman. Not only was he an Uman, but he's sitting here in the Karl Bach Shul in Bet Shemesh. No. He's sitting here. His body is on a chair in Bet Shemesh at Karl Bach Shul. But where is he? He's in Uman. L'chaim Chevre, have a great day. Bye-bye. Take care.
Who's in Uman?
One of my students.